Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker. Check us out, y'all. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about, something that's really, really scary on a whole lot of levels, but it ended up being probably the best thing that could have happened under the circumstance. Well, I'm not going to say the best thing that could have happened under the circumstances, but it didn't turn out as bad as you would think it would, right? This story is about this young man that missed out on the opportunity to know his father because his father was murdered. His father was murdered, right? And so he never really had a relationship with his father, but he ended up in prison. And when he ended up in prison, guess what? He ended up in the same cell as the man that had been convicted of his murder, of his father's murder. Yeah. True story, y'all. Again, another one of those that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Just not going to hear it. You know what I'm saying? I got the best shows for you, y'all. Best shows for you. Share them with your friends. Tell them about them, right? But right now, what I want you to do is I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Check this out, y'all. In the mid-90s, right? A lot of people were getting killed out there. A lot of people were getting killed in the mid-90s, right? And a lot of people were in the streets. A lot of people were trying to get money in the streets. You know what I'm saying? The dope was just booming from everywhere. Everybody was trying to get it, right? And a lot of times, man, when you got street dudes, both of the individuals involved in the situation here are street dudes, people end up getting killed and, it's a tit for tat thing. People are going back and forth. You kill my homeboy, I'm going to kill yours, and so on and so forth, stuff like that, right? But in this situation, the guy that got killed, turns out that he was cool with the guy that he killed. They had a disagreement. They had an argument. And like a lot of people started doing in the 90s, they didn't fight it out. They shot it out. And he ended up shooting somebody that he really thought, that had his back. They weren't friends, so to speak, like that. But everybody said they were cool. They were respectful. Both of them were street dudes. Both of them were getting money. You know what I'm saying? They didn't have any bad blood between each other. They just had a misunderstanding. And it resulted in one of them dying. Well, the one guy that died, he was a new father. A new father. His son wasn't even a year old when he died. Wasn't even a year old. You know what I'm saying? So they gave his father a life sentence. Gave him a life sentence. Sent him his way. He's back in the penitentiary. You know what I'm saying? He had been in before and got out, but now he's back with a life sentence for killing somebody that he really didn't even have any animosity with at all. And it really messed his mind up. For a while at the beginning of his incarceration, he got out there on them drugs because he just couldn't deal with it. He could not believe that he had killed this man. He had no violent charges before this, drug charges. But look here, y'all, when you're in the streets and you're doing that, a part of the game, is that anything can happen at any time. And if you're in the game and you don't understand that, get out of it. You feel me? You shouldn't be in it anyway. But again, let me get back to the story. He got out there on them drugs real bad, man. I'm talking about real bad. Because that happens to a lot of people when they come in here and they can't face the reality of the situation that because of their own decisions, they created. And so he tried to escape it. He got out there real bad on that cocaine. Real bad. I'm talking about people would meet, they would see him when they would get to the penitentiary, they knew him from the streets, they looking at him like, what happened to you? Because see, what they were expecting was this thing that you see on TV. When you see people in the dope game on TV and they end up going to prison, they still have this hard exterior that they put forth like it didn't bother them. Like it's okay, it's cool. I'm straight. You know what I'm saying? This is what it is. Nah, he wasn't like that. And the reality is, for all of you out there, listen, most people are not like that. That TV stuff get everybody messed up. When it get real, see on TV, when they say cut, everybody go home. Or when the movie ends, everybody goes home. They were acting. In real life, when you kill somebody, you go to court, you go to trial, or unless you plead guilty, when you go to the penitentiary, don't nobody say cut and then you get to go home. That ain't how that works. That's not how that works. You here until the duration, unless you die here. And he had to find some kind of way to cope. And he thought that, you know what I'm saying, lacing up that joint was going to do it. That didn't do it, so he started, you know what I'm saying, smoking rocks. That didn't do it, so he started using the needle. And that didn't do it. And according to him, as the story came to me, he found God. The Most High stepped into his life, he says. Cleaned him up. Made him whole, he said. But after years and years of incarceration, you know, see, this is what a lot of people think. They think that, you know, when you get your life together and you start doing the right thing, that everything is going to be good, everything is going to be good, everything is going to be fun, everything is going to be straight. You're not going to have any more problems when you find God. Well, that's when the trouble is coming. That's when the trouble is coming. And he wasn't ready for it, y'all. He wasn't ready for it. Because what he was confronted with was something that I don't know if most people can speak on it. Because what he was confronted with is that the little boy that lost his father, that he killed, was on his way to prison. Now, keep in mind, let me break something down for y'all. Normally in the penitentiary, you know, they make sure to keep people separate that might cross over in the cases. If two people testify against each other and it gets bad, the institution will put incompatibles against each other, the two people. An incompatible meaning they can't live around each other because it might lead to something, okay? It's to protect everybody. Well, in this situation, this little boy fell through the cracks because he didn't have the same last name as his father. Why is that? Because his mother got married and went on with her life. And her husband adopted the son. And he took on his stepfather's last name. Now, he comes into the system. They ask him, does he have any problems with anybody, this and that? And he says no, because he doesn't know about all of what happened with his father. He knows his father got killed by somebody that's in the system, but he doesn't know who it is. He doesn't know any of that. He's gone on with his life, and he ended up following in his father's footsteps in the streets. Not what his stepfather was about, but his father. Right? They did everything they could to try to pull him away from him, but he kept going. And he ended up catching some dope cases. He didn't get a lot of time, but he caught some dope cases. And he got a nice little bit, about 12 years. So he comes into the system. And when he comes into the system, guess what? Like I said, he ends up on the compound and in the same cell. But he doesn't know that. He doesn't know that initially. Right? So like all Celleys, you know, you sit down and you talk and all of this and that. Now, you know, the guy that killed his father, he's an older guy at this point. You know what I mean? And he's been through some things. And he studies and he reads the Bible religiously. You know what I'm saying? Trying to follow Yahshua, Jesus' message. And one day, while they were talking, he was like, where are you from? And he told him where he was from and who his father was and his mama was. And he didn't mention the guy that he killed. So he's talking about his stepfather. So he was like, oh, okay, dig this, dig that, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't know that this is the son of the man that he killed. He doesn't know that. So now he pulls out pictures and he's showing him pictures. And he sees these pictures and he recognizes the woman, but not the man. And he's like, I know her. I know her. And he calls out her name. He's like, yeah, that's my mom. And so he's excited. The young man is excited because, okay, now it's a connection and he feels like he's going to be okay. He's in the cell with somebody that knows his mom, so he's expecting to be treated properly. You understand? So when he gets on the phone, he's telling his mom that his Celley knows her. And she's like, what's his name? And he calls out his name. And his mom goes silent. She doesn't say a word. Then her son said, Mama, you there? She was like, yeah, I'm here. What's wrong? She said nothing. I just hadn't heard that name in a while. And he said, so you know him? She was like, yeah, I know him. I know him very well. I know him very well. And she said, that's something I need to tell you, but I'll tell you when I come to visit you. And he said, okay. Okay. So he gets off the phone. He's confused a little bit, but, he rolls with it. He's going to wait till his mom comes to visit, and then he's going to find out what really is going on. So when he gets off the phone, he goes back to the cell and he tells his Celley that I told my mom that, your name, and she says she knows you. And now his Celley is looking at him like, okay, what was the response to it? And then now all of a sudden there's some tension in the air because he wonders if the mom told him what happened, but she didn't. You feel what I'm saying? And he said, well, she said she has something she's going to tell me when she comes to visit. And he said, I need to tell you first. So now the young man is looking at him like, tell me what is going on? And he starts to tell him, like a lot of people, when you're trying to explain something difficult to somebody, you try to lead out and say, man, me and your daddy knew each other. You know what I'm saying? We grew up in the same neighborhood. He's trying to put a little sugar on it. You know how you put the sugar in the castor oil? That's what he's trying to do, because he's finna tell him something that's going to change his life. Again. Because you got to remember, this man took his father away from him. He didn't even get a chance to know his father. Now he's finna tell him that he's the one responsible for it. He doesn't know this. So he's going to traumatize this young man twice in his young life. He's finna traumatize this man again. But he knows it has to be done. So he closes his eyes and he says a silent prayer. And he tells him, he said, man, with tears in his eyes and his voice choking up, he said, man, I shot your daddy, man. I didn't mean to kill him, but we got into an argument. And I'm the one that shot your pops. The young man leaned back, stood up, and said, what? You shot my pops? Now he's confused a little bit. He's not putting the pieces of the puzzle together yet. He's not talking about his stepfather. He's talking about his biological. And when he figures it out, he sits down on the bunk. And you got to keep in mind, this young man did not even get to know his father whatsoever. But he's angry. He's angry that this man took his father from him, even though he didn't even know him. He feels violated. So the old head, look here now. He stands up because he understands this is the penitentiary. And now it's not even about the penitentiary. This is real life. This is real life. He understands that this man is probably going to want to hurt him. And that would be true whether you were in the penitentiary or not, so don't get it twisted. So he stands up and he said, I understand. He said, look, I'll give you a few days to get somewhere. You feel what I'm saying? If you want to leave. And I'll understand that. So this young man, he does not say anything. He just stares at it. And he's shaking and he's trembling. And that's when the old head looks at him. He says, hey, man, sit down. Sit down. And he puts his hand on his shoulder and he sits him down. And when he sits him down, he looks at him and this young man is crying. Tears streaming down his face. And he tells him, look, I am sorry for what I did to you. I'm sorry for what I did to your pops. He said, and I'll understand if you want to hurt me. The young man looked at him and said, no, I don't want to hurt you. He said, but now I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Just a few minutes ago, I was happy about my mom knowing you. And now I know what it is my mom wants to tell me. And I'm thinking about my mama. I'm thinking about what she went through and how she's going to feel and what she's going to expect, what the streets are going to expect. They expect me to do something. But I don't want to hurt you, man. I didn't even know my pops like that. That don't mean I didn't love his memory and what I know about him, but I didn't even know my pops like that. So now the old head is looking at him confused. It's like, is he trying to rock me to sleep? Nah, I ain't going. But then he falls back on his teachings and he gets to thinking about, things coming full circle, and being responsible and accountable for what you've done in life. You reap what you sow. That's what he's learning. You reap what you sow. So how is he going to reap what he sowed? What is going to happen to him as a result of what he did? Because now he's in this room with his victim's son. He stands up and he said, look, I'm going to go tell the officer what's going on and then let them decide which one of us they're going to take out of here. The young man stops and said, no, don't do that. Don't do that. He said, I just need some time, man. I just need some time. Let me talk to my mama this weekend. Just give me some time. So this is a Wednesday. So you got Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It's 3 days, man. 3 days before he ends up going to visit. And when he gets to visit, his mom is telling him the story, what happened. She's telling him how his father was a street dude, and in the streets, things happen. And she tells him, that's why I always wanted you to understand that the streets are not where you want to be. Because in the streets, anything can happen. She had no ill will against his Celley. She understood in the streets that anything can happen. And him going back in there and taking his life was not going to bring his father back. And that's not what she wanted. What she wanted him to learn from this. She wanted him to understand and accept that if you keep going down the path that you're on, you're going to end up like your father, or you're going to end up like the man that killed your father in prison for the rest of your life. That's the lesson here, y'all. That's the lesson. It's not about retaliation. It's not about retaliation. It's about growth. And they hugged and they cried it out in the VG. And the officers, everybody's watching, the other visitors are watching what is going on. But they couldn't say anything because if they would have said something about it, they would have taken both of them off the compound, so they kept it quiet. And they remained Celleys. And this man that had taken this young man's father from him became a father figure to him, teaching him the word, being the example, loving on him in a way that his father was not able to do because he took his father away from him. And now as the years go on, the years went on, y'all, the years went on, and this young man was able to get out and go home. And he thanked this man for being the example for him. He thanked that man for being there for him. Yeah, he missed his father. He missed out on being with his biological father. But he knew that what happened because his father was in the streets, and he knew that that's not what he was going to do. Not now. The consequences are real. And that's what I want y'all to get out of this. The consequences are real, y'all. The consequences are real. Now check this out before I go. I want to talk about Rivals, my new book that me and Boo got out. It's available on Amazon.com. Go check that thing out. It's just $20. I appreciate you. It's about a father and son that go through the same things. You know what I'm saying? Go through the same thing. They're both in opposite gangs. So go check that book out, y'all. It's a good one. It's a good read. Share this episode, y'all. I'm asking y'all to share this episode on your social media with your friends. Tell them about it. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker. And I say peace, y'all.